Hello guys, in this tutorial I'll be using Angular Material Data Table to fetch data from a live database. By the end of this video, you'll be able to use this same Angular Material Data Table code and fetch data in your app from any database like MySQL, PostgreSQL, MariaDB or SQL Server connected through a PHP, Python or any server-side language. Or you can use the same Angular Material Data Table code to fetch the data using HTTP from any document database like MongoDB, CouchDB, or Firebase. Also, I'll be publishing this app to iOS and Android Google Play, and I will include the link into description of this video. So let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to hit out to my GitHub repository, and as you can see, I've created a new repository. It's called MNGIC. All the installation instruction and the commands I'll be using, I've included everything into this README file. So let's start with the development. First thing, I want you to go to your VS Code, and first thing I want to do, make sure that your node is properly installed. Node -v, that means show me the version. And second thing, I want to quickly check my npm version. Last thing I want to check is Angular CLI version. Okay, all three looks good. So as you can see, I'm inside my documents directory. So the next thing I want to do, let's quickly create a new app. So ng new, I'm going to call this app MNGIC. I'm going to pause my recording here and wait until CLI creates a new. Okay, so now as you see, my Angular CLI just finished creating a new app here. And now the first thing I want to do is a couple of the cleanup tasks. So I'll head back to my GitHub repository. As you can see, I'm going to replacing my favicon icon, updating my gitignore file, and a couple of other very minor cleanups. So let's quickly do that. As you can see, I already have an icon directory where I have all the favicons here. I'm going to copy this over, go to my MNGIC app, src, assets, and this is, I will paste it over there. Okay, wonderful. So now let me head back to my MNGIC directory here. I'm going to open index.html and update this path so that it can find my favicon icon here. Perfect. Okay. Next thing I want to do, I have to make sure that my gitignore file is properly updated. Again, it's optional, but it's a very good practice to always check your gitignore file. Okay. Looks good. Okay. Make sure that it's excluding node modules, etc. Okay. I have to quickly fix my Angular CLI.json. Okay, so let's head back to Angular CLI.json. Okay, so as you can see, source is my root directory, output destination is DST. I do not need this because I already fixed my favicon icon. Next thing, I want to get rid of this prefix app. That's it. So I'm going to save this change. It looks good. One last thing, polyfill.json. Polyfill. Okay, sorry, polyfill.ts file. I am going to do, using this as a mobile app, so I don't think I need to worry about older browser versions like Internet Explorer 9 or 10. So I'm going to leave this as is. Okay. Next thing we have to do some install the Angular material packages. I will come back to this in few minutes. But before I do that, let me just quickly finish. Let's go back to your styles.css file. So I know that I will be using this style sheet. So I'm just going to copy paste this here. And I know that I'll be using Google material icon. So I'm going to quickly copy this link to my index.html. Okay. Okay, let me just fix this. Okay, now it looks good. Now it's time to install this Angular Material npm packages. Okay, so there are three different packages I'm going to install. Again, I'm going to Okay guys, so as you can see, I just finished installing three different Angular Material packages required. So now it's time to install a couple of different components and modules for my app. As you can see, I always like to keep my all the Angular Materials modules in a separate module. So I'm going to quickly create a new separate module, the custom material module for my Angular Material. As you can see, and I'm going to keep this under shared directory. Okay. Next thing I want to do, I already have this code written where I am bringing all the material modules, material packages required. Again, you can always come back and pick and choose what you need. But for now, I'm just going with I'm just like thinking that I will need everything. Okay. I'm going to quickly replace this file. Next thing I want to do is go back to my app module and import this to my sorry. Okay, and import this to my import array. Okay. Okay, for some reason my auto import plugin wasn't working, but now I just fixed it. I imported this Elish custom material modules to my app.module file. Um, Next thing I want to do, at this point, if I do an ng serve, I know it's going to work. But I quickly, I want to create a new footer for my app. So I'm just going to create, and I'm going to keep this footer inside my shared directory. And the reason I want to include my footer, because I want to just include a copyright statement over there. So as you can see, my footer already finished. I'm going to head to my footer.component.html and replace my footer with this text. Okay. Next thing I want to do, I want to quickly go back to my app.component.html, and at the end of this file, I'm going to include my footer. Okay. That's it. So I think I have all the necessary changes, everything I need installed. Now it's time to serve my app. So I'm going to start my development server, ng-serve, and I'm going to pause here and wait for my development server to start. Okay guys, so my development server just started and it's serving at port 4200. So if I go back to my local host 4200, as you can see, it's serving all the boilerplate code, and at the last, as you can see, it's included the footer component HTML file. So now it's time to include the code for the material data table. My development server just started, so I'm going to quickly hit back to localhost 4200, and as you see, it has included my footer component. Now I'm going to make few more changes to get rid of this boilerplate code and include my material design. So let's quickly head back to the Visual Studio Code. First thing is I want to include my own CSS file. You can find a copy of my CSS from my GitHub repository. But basically, it's a very simple CSS style sheet for a couple of the material data elements I'm going to include. I'm going to save this. Next step is I'm going to head out to my app.component.html. As you can see, this is the boilerplate code. I want to get rid of this one. So first thing I want to include is get rid of this. Then I'm going to include a nice toolbar. It's going to be a top toolbar. And then as you can see, I want to include a menu item at the right hand side. Let me include a mat menu. So now this error is gone. What this menu is going to do is going to open three links at the right hand side, and basically these all three are links to my SVG icons. Okay. So next thing I want to do is I'm going to display the results. So I need an area where I can display the results. So I'm going to include a mat card, and then Okay, sorry, I'm going to include a mat card content here. Okay, and this is, I will display mat table here. So let's see, let me save these changes and let's see how my changes looks like here. Okay. So okay, so mat card is showing up, the text is showing up, and this also looks good. Let me just quickly check my console just to see if there's any error. Oh my god, there are some errors. Okay. Okay, so it's complaining about the HTTP client module. It's a very common mistake. Let me go back and quickly fix it. So I'll go back to app.module.ts and I'm going to include my HTTP component, HTTP client module, and then I'm going to import it here, save this, and hopefully this will get rid of that error. Okay, as you can see, it's reloading. Okay, perfect. So as you can see, I don't have any error here, and I have a very nice toolbar, and I have a social plugin, social icons, as nice looking SVG icons for the context at the right hand side. So, and my footer is displaying correctly. So all I need to do here is fix this display mat table. So I'm going to use Angular material mat table, data table, to fetch the results from a live database. And once that is done, this app is going to look very nice. Okay guys, so now the most fun part starts. All I need to do here, replace this mat data table with the actual data set. I'll be pulling it from a live server or database. So before we start, I want to quickly head out to material.angular.io, choose one of those components, data table, and look at some of their data table examples. So as you can see, they have listed out couple of data table samples here. I'm going to choose one of this sample because this sample, it shows you how to filter your result sets, and it has a very nice sorting, pagination, etc. Built in. So I'm going to pick this layout. They have one more layout is for their HTTP service. I'm going to cover this in next video. So in this video, let's just implement this nice looking material data table to our data. Okay. So let's go back to our app. Before we start, I want to quickly go to app.component.html. So this is where I'm going to put my new material data table here. Okay. So to do that, it's always a good idea to fetch data from a different service. This is called separation of concerns. So keep all your backend related code in a separate service. So I'm going to quickly generate a new service here. Okay. And I'm going to keep this backend services into a separate directory called services. So as you can see, this is the backend service. Now next thing, I just want to quickly go to this backend service and make sure that this backend service is included into my app.module file. For some reason, my auto import plugin is not working. So I have to manually import that. Okay. From service. Beautiful. Okay. Now next thing I want to do, I'm going to create a file called mock.data.json. Again, this is just for the testing purpose, and later on I'll be replacing this file with an actual HTTP server. I have already written some code. Okay. So in this file, all I'm doing, I'm just mocking my data. Okay. Let me get rid of this. So let me just quickly show you what this thing is. Okay. So as you can see, this data, there are a couple of things like error, number of rows. I'll cover this later. But basically what this is, error is code is going to return if there is any error from retrieving the data set or not. Number of rows, in this case, it should be the number of rows is 6 because there are total 6 records, should return 6. I will cover this later how to use these two fields, but for now let's just go with this one. And data is actually where the data resides. So as you can see, this is a sample students data where it has a unique identifier and then student name, session ID, roll number, father's name, class, and percent. It's very simple data. And I'm going to use this mock data. Later on, I'll again, as I said, I'll replace this mock data with an actual data set. Now my mock data is ready for the testing. One mistake I did earlier, I copied my mock data into .json file, but because it's just for testing purposes, I copied this as a constant and I put it in a TypeScript file. And for now, just ignore this error and number of rows. I'm going to fix this later. And I'm going to show you how to make use of these two fields. But for now, this is the data part we will be focusing on. So let's go back to your backend.service.ts. First thing I want to do, I want to import these students from this mock data. And then next thing is I want to create a local variable which is going to get the data portion of this students from this mock data file. Next thing is I want to create a new method called getData, and I'm going to return this dot students. So basically this is again, this mock service is going to return the students um, from this mockdata.ts file. Okay. Next thing I want to do, I want to head out to my terminal window and I'm going to want to create a new mat table data table. So what this is going to do, this is going to create a new component, and this component will actually get the data from this backend service, and I'm going to include, I'm going to take the method from this component. So let's quickly go to this mat.component.ts file. So as you can see, mat table data. I'm going to copy this selector, go back to my app.component.html, and I'm going to include this here. Okay, it should be in. Perfect. Mat table data. So my app is again serving at localhost 4200, and as you can see that this is getting the new data from mat table data component. So let's quickly go to the mat table data component again here, and this is where I want to display my data in this new format from in this data table format. So let's quickly do that. First thing I want you to go here, take their CSS file, copy this over, and next thing I want to take the CSS and put it into this mat table data.component.cs. Okay, so now the CSS part is over. Second part is the TS part. Okay, so as you can see, they have this boilerplate code here. We don't need everything here, but I'm going to show you what exactly you need, the bare minimum code you need to get the data from your component. So I'm going to copy these first two lines here. Let's go to your mattable.component.ts and put this here. So as you can see, it is the only thing we are missing is view child. I'm going to include this here. That's it. Now we are good. Next thing we need is okay, so I'm just basically what I'm going to do, copy all of these things here. Okay, and let's pick and choose what we need. Okay, perfect. Okay, okay, so what is complaining about that this is missing an on init implementation. That's okay. I'm going to fix this later. For now, let's get rid of all this construction part because we don't need all of these things. Okay, I'm just going to copy this here and save it somewhere in the notepad file because I'm going to come back to this in 1 minute. So Let's get rid of all this construction, because all they are doing is they are creating a new data source at this moment. Okay, and then I'm going to leave rest of the codes here. I don't need to create a new user, nothing like this. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of everything. Basically that's all you need. Okay, okay, now I don't have this, I'm not using this data type, so I'm going to change this to any. Okay, perfect. Now, all we are missing, as you said, is implementation of the ng on init. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to say ng on init. Okay, so this got rid of that error. But here, what I want to do, I want to get access to my backend service here. So this dot, and I have to bring my backend service to my metadata.component.ts file here. Okay, so I'm going to import this here. Uh, Backend service auto import. Okay. So I just imported this backend service here. I'm going to put initiate a new private variable, say my service, and is going to be of type backend service. Okay. Okay. Now in the ng init part, all I'm going to do here, this dot my service dot get data. That's it. So if I go to my backend.service.ts, get data, so it's going to return this.students file here. So basically that's pretty much it. So as you can see, this will return my get data file here. But this, remember, like we got rid of this code here. So I am going to bring back this code to my mat table data.component.cs, and basically what I'm going to do, I'm initiating a new mat table source, and I'm going to assign this to my this.data source. I'm going to replace this and pass this as a parameter. So I think that's pretty much it for this TS file. Let's go back to the code and let's work on our HTML file. Again, I'm going to copy this code from here, put it on your mattable.component.html, replace everything here. So as you can see, I'm not going to touch anything else. This is the data source what we just defined. Now, instead of reading it from the delivered example database, now it's going to read the data from the mock data what we created. So basically, that's pretty much it. One more thing, sorry, last two things I have to do here. I have to fix this displayed column. So again, this was the examples given by Angular material, but our data doesn't look like this. So let me quickly show you. Our data has this student ID number, student name, session ID, roll number, father's name, class, and percent sign. So I already have copied this here. All I need to do, instead of using their displayed columns, I'm going to replace it with the columns what I want to see from my mock data. And this order is very important. Remember guys, this is the order your data is going to show up in your mat table. So I think now I'm done with this .ts file. Now it's time to go fix our HTML file. So the same changes I have to do. As you can see, this is using the example containers here. So all I need to do, I need to get rid of all these fields from the boilerplate code I got from Angular material. Okay, and this time I have to include the fields I want to use. So these are the fields I will be using. I'm going to copy this, go back to my HTML file, put it here. So now let me just save it. So what this is going to do, this is going to show up the tables I have. Okay, let's see. I hope I saved everything. Okay, wonderful. See, so this is exactly what I expected. So now I have entirely replaced this mat table to use my data set. And if I go back to my mat table data set, the mock data set, I had this 6 different student IDs with their information. And you see my mat table data component is fetching the data from mock data. So basically this is, and as you can see, the sorting works. And then you can even filter your results. So for example, dad, okay, so it filters the results and it's going to, it has a nice pagination, the filtration works, the sorting is working. So this is how easy it is to use delivered Angular material data table and point it to your data source. So uh, I think in next video what I'm going to do, I will be replacing this mock data to a live database. So again, this my code, I intend to design my code in such a way that it can work with multiple platform and multiple databases. So basically all in my next tutorial I'll show you, all you need to do from here, like getting it from a mock data, you just need to replace this at one place to point it to your live database, and your mat data table should be working as is. So stay tuned, let's wait for the next tutorial.